Welcome to the Amen Podcast, where all men from all walks of life, backgrounds, and ages can obtain the tools on how to become alpha men from a Christ-centered perspective in today's society. Here's your host, Jimmy Greer.
Welcome back, everybody, to another. This is going to be a great episode. We brought back Debra Rush from Breaking the Chains, and I just want to welcome you back again. Thank you for coming in. One of the things that really struck a chord in me last time that we were talking was just the awareness that I felt, how do I even express this? I felt like a knowledge, like an invalid in a sense that I was completely unaware to everything, inept to what was really going on. And since that interview that we had last time, like my radar has just been on, like left and right. The things that I would normally just kind of do my day in are not things that they're things that I pay attention to. They're things that I'm much more aware of. And so I thought about this and I said, you know what, we got to bring it back for some more. We got to bring back for some more clarity, some more in-depth questions. And especially, since the last time you were here, there's so much that's happened in our climate in the state and at the national level, right? And one of the first questions, Debra, that I wanted to ask you was, with recent policy changes at the U.S. border, have you seen or heard any decrease or impact to the sex trafficking industry? It was like one of the first things that I kind of wanted to touch on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a great question. First and foremost, thank you for having me back. I enjoy my time here. I think that's a valid question. I think I'm going to answer and then kind of go backwards. I think it's important for people to understand that this still is very new, right? This border enforcement has only been occurring for the past 6 months. Yeah. And so I believe the tidal wave that we are going to see and in an opposite effect, right, of less trafficking victims actually at our foreign national borders is something that we will probably see going into 2026, maybe even 2027 as numbers are collected. So, and I think it's really going to be even more impactful for our labor trafficking. So I think the easy answer is hands down by protecting our borders, by making sure that those who are operating within criminal organizations, if they do not have citizenships or a pathway to citizenship or returning back to their countries, is hands down going to make a significant impact. We just seen the cannabis farm bust, as chaotic as that was. But did you see how many juveniles were there?
No, they didn't report that.
They actually did. So there are news stories where they have the faces blurred out, and you can see the ICE agents standing behind juvenile foreign national victims who are there, and that's what they are, even if they don't realize that.
Didn't they say they were from El Salvador as well?
I don't remember. Mexico? I don't want to say yes. I remember that. But the fact of the matter is these were minors that are using to harvest our cannabis here, which is also a whole nother issue. Right.
Whole nother bag.
I think that stands as an example of where we're going to see a reduction in human trafficking. And again, it's really important to understand that depending on which border you're talking about really determines what type of decrease we're going to see, if that's going to be in sex trafficking or labor trafficking, debt bondage, domestic servitude. Yeah. So I know that specifically, and what population. So for our South American population, pretty much across the board on the South American continent, you're going to see those who are being sex trafficked in transit and children and women upon arrival. But usually the primary means that they're being brought here for is a labor trafficking, domestic servitude, debt bondage type issue. Wow. Whereas our Mandarin population, right, from China that are coming in here, this is going to be all of our sex trafficking victims. And so it really just depends on which region. And I go back to saying that as numbers start to be counted and as we start to really being able to accurately track the data, definitely we're going to see a decrease. And I hope that it doesn't get convoluted in politics and hidden and pushed back. So I think that's going to really be.
And also that they don't get used as political pieces as well. Because sometimes what they'll do is they'll hold it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you would know this way better than I would, but they hold on to this data and this information to release it at the right point in time. So let's say my popularity points are going down. They release this bit of information that they've been holding on to for a while, and they say, oh, this would be a good hit piece so I can pop my numbers up. while at the same time really not allowing, the United States population to really know that kind of information.
Well, I think it also depends on the current administration. I mean,
True.
I feel like this is a safe place to be very honest about my own insight and my own feelings. And
Yeah.
I think that on both sides of the aisle, it's really dangerous, the information that we receive, because the context is always skewed based on what media's favored administration is.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And so the other side of that is to understand that the people that are tracking this data, and I don't want to name partners that I partner with,
Sure.
In the anti-trafficking field, most of them are pretty liberal. And so they may not
Interesting.
be, yes. And so
Interesting.
there's been cuts, funding cuts that have come their way. And so I don't know how impressed they are with this current administration. So I'm curious
Yeah.
to see. We can make numbers say whatever we want.
We can. Absolutely.
We absolutely
Yeah.
can. And so how well advertised are those numbers going to be? Because for me,
Or withheld.
are withheld.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know what that looks like. I'm going to be waiting with everybody else to kind of see. But what I can tell everybody that's listening is, being somebody, and if you don't know, Breaking the Chains is a direct service provider to law enforcement. We are the boots on the ground. We're the primary lead agency. So the majority of the victims in the central San Joaquin Valley, both labor and sex, we see. And I know that a majority of those who are specifically labor foreign national undocumented victims that are victims of trafficking. It's happening at the border. So if we've seen numbers decrease from 10,000 a month, I don't remember what the numbers are, so
It was crazy. Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
comment later
Yeah.
and be like, she doesn't even know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
But from thousands a month to hundreds,
Right.
I mean,
That's
it's a
a win.
no-brainer.
That's
It's a
a win.
win. It's
Yeah,
a
it's a win.
no-brainer. You're going to see a decrease.
Right. I was thinking about that, and I was like, okay, because I remember when we started seeing, I think it was video clips of Texas. Was it? I'm not sure if it was Prairie, Texas, but it was one of the big ports of entry. It was not really a port; it was just a border crossing, and so you had foreign nationals from China coming in by the thousands on a daily basis. And what was really funny to me that I always saw was these guys had REI vests, had North Face backpacks. These people were well dressed. They didn't look like they traveled a really hard, trek. They looked like it was pretty okay. And every time guy named, I can't remember his last name, but his name's Ben. He's a local guy, and he does a lot of the news reporting. Like, he's on the ground. He doesn't work for any network. He does it all on his own. But he would ask the question. He would say, "Where are you from?" And they would say, "China. China. China." Like, it kept happening again. So I guess what I'm getting at is that you have all these people that are coming in from the labor aspect, and nobody's putting two and two together. Like, why all of a sudden this big push right before the election takes place? And I'm not trying to get, politically sideways, but why do you see this influx, so large push in 23, right? 24 of all these people here? It's because there is a demand, such as these pot farms, There's people that are going, at the end of the day, are going to solicit these people.
Well, but
and
I
abuse
also
them.
think that people knew that our borders were open. And
Yeah.
anybody
Yeah.
with half a brain who's wanting to get in this country and says, well, this might not be the case in elections coming up,
Right.
right? Things can change. Things always change during an election.
100%.
And again, only a speculation.
Yeah.
That could have been a reason for the influx that we've seen. But I think you brought up another point that's really important, is so many of the public thinks South America borders are it's South American people coming in, but we have Middle Eastern community terrorists, right? We have these type of things. And so I think it's just really important that we understand, and I'll just speak to it, like I said, from the context of what I do and my experience is that my expectation is that we will see a decrease, albeit the appropriate numbers are released, 26, 27, and
That's
hopefully
when we'll
through
see
our TIP
real
report.
hard data.
Yeah, there's a TIP report that people can look at, TIP
okay.
report, Trafficking in Persons report that is usually released every other year.
Is that on federal?
It's on a federal website,
okay.
yep. So we should be able to see accurate numbers that come through.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. So if you're out there and you're wanting to try and get that data and that information, that's where you want to go, because I want to give people tools to speak from an educated standpoint, not I heard from my buddy, I'm not heard from my friend at work, my family member, which if your family's plugged in, then that's great.
Right.
But if not, it's good to inform yourself so you're not speaking out of turn.
Well, and I think one of the things, can I tell you?
Sure.
And this, I don't know if it gets any backlash from anybody, but I'm
Who
a news
cares?
buff. I love
Who
news.
cares?
My family's like, I'm paying $80 a month for YouTube TV so I can watch all the news. And
Right.
they're like, you can stream for $6. I said I can't see all the news channels. And so I literally probably spend, and I'm totally like, bring people
You're
in
nerding
personally.
yourself right
I
out.
nerd myself right out. And I probably spend a couple hours a day in the evening while I'm cooking dinner. But I switch. I'll do a half an hour on CNN.
Okay.
A half an hour on Fox News,
Right.
a half an hour on the BBC, so I want to see what the rest of the world is thinking,
Right.
right,
Right.
and those are the and CNN I'll flex back between MSNBC
Sure.
or whatever, right, and of course ABC World News, but I watch all of those, and then I have my few little more conservative podcasts and stuff and others, but it's because I want to get an accurate picture because I honestly, if I'm really honest,
Yeah.
I think that it's turned into a place where everybody's so black and white on either side that in order to get a really full picture of what's happening, you have to kind of look
outside.
at, you have to go outside, you have to look at everything that's happening
Yeah.
and really begin to decipher your own opinions. And I think that if Americans would do that, if they would say, look, let me step off of my side of the fence for a minute, right? Let me look at the different things that are being talked about and then really try and use common sense to figure out.
Okay, that's a big ask in some cases.
That's a big ask,
That's
but
a
right,
big
to
ask,
use
yeah.
common sense to go,
Yeah.
okay, wait a minute. I think you're going to see some of the things, like I said, for me, it's a common sense aspect. I'm not going to get into, so I won't answer questions. I don't stand, I know, I mean, on, how I feel about how people are, returning to their countries or what's happening. That is not in my field of expertise.
That's not your wheelhouse.
That's not my wheelhouse. But I will tell you that when we decrease, when we tighten up our borders, when we begin to protect our borders, we begin to protect our communities.
I like that because you have a very well-rounded scope. I don't know if have you ever checked out Epoch News before? Have you looked at that?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do like them because they do give an alternative perspective that I don't really feel is heavy on one side or the other. It's just a presentation of, hey, this is what we reported as facts. Take it or leave it. Right? What news used to be when you and I grew up,
Right.
whereas it wasn't about what side of the aisle you were on. It wasn't your political shift or lean was. It was all about, here's the information. This is what happened in our world today. Right? And that honesty of that reporting is just, it's vastly gone these days, I do want to ask you, so last year was it last year that you made a trip to the White House?
I did.
Okay. I want to hear about that. What was that like? What was that experience and what was the purpose for you being there?
So last year I was actually invited back under the Biden administration.
Okay.
And I was invited back there in conjunction to me losing my daughter. And for those who don't know, my daughter was murdered by traffickers in Los Angeles in March of last year. And so I was invited back through the Victims of Crime Act, VAWA. There was an annual celebration that they have there. And then I was invited to personally meet with President Biden at that time. And so for me, this is again where I go bipartisan. I was very impressed. It was very genuine. There was nothing about politics that was involved. It was genuinely an extension from the White House to me to express their condolences to what had happened and my work within the anti-trafficking field. And so
that was the focus.
That was the focus.
Yeah.
There was nothing else that really came up. I think I spoke with Biden for all of 3 minutes. He shared about he had 2 tragic losses. And so I do say that, right? I'm a little bit more conservative. Most people know that. I'm a Republican. I'm not ashamed of that to tell people that.
Yeah.
And so, but I did. He shared about his daughter, his 2-year-old daughter he lost in a car accident, and then again losing his son to an overdose. And so just parent to parent. Just told me his heart was with me. And that was pretty much that. There was no any talk of any legislative changes or
nothing.
something.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did their research and knew I wasn't on that side of the aisle. But the fact that they still invited me in and did that really meant a lot. And for those who are wondering why me, is because when I had found out, I think I told you before, I was actually in Washington when I found out about my daughter's passing. I was actually in Washington, D.C. in March, and I was there addressing some of the congressional cabinet regarding the correlation between mental health, human trafficking, and homelessness here in the central San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
I was down there and partnered with our local Fresno mission and was talking about that. And so during that time, I actually spoke about my daughter and named her and said, that what we were struggling with and her having some pretty significant mental health issues, and then only recently finding out that she was potentially being exploited in Southern California. And it was 12 hours later in the D.C. airport where we got the notification. So that's how we ended up back down there. But no, I cannot tell you that there was anything political.
Yeah, right.
I don't think they wanted to go there with me,
Right.
to be completely honest, or had any intention of taking any of my advice.
I think that would have been honestly a mixture of mama bear, emotion, passion, all of those things that would have driven that.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was super fresh, and the fact that you as I, definitely lean right, and we were conservative about our views. We're not going to sit there and just idly ignore what the administration. A lot of accusation, but it's also some facts here that we see, in front of our own eyes that are taking place. Things just don't add up.
And it felt like he was. There was a place right at the end where I was like, you could tell you're about to ask a question, and it is. I forget what comedian I seen talking about it. Oh, it was Fluffy of all people, Gabriel Iglesias, you guys.
Okay.
And he was talking about meeting I
Joe
think it was
Biden?
Arnold. Arnold Schwarzenegger, and how they have the cue guy that like pops him on the shoulder, like, come on. And so as soon as he got done saying that, I said I'd also like, and I got that far out before the Secret Service jerked him down the line.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay. Now,
who knows where that conversation would have went?
It could have went anywhere, but I don't think it would have been favorable for him.
No. Or B. I don't think he would have been. They would have moved him very quickly. I'm very passionate.
Hey, we got something else we got to take care of. Let's keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Did you get to meet with any other officials in regards to sex trafficking, human trafficking at all?
Yeah, I actually got to connect with Nova.
Okay.
And so they're actually very instrumental in enacting the Violence Against Women's Act.
Okay.
And so I ended up having dinner with their executive director, and we have an ongoing conversation and a partnership that got established out of that, just working on legislation. And I know you have some questions we'll talk about in a minute about some of the things that are hopefully going to be happening. And then, I'm hoping to get invited back. So if somebody wants to, I would love to go out with this current administration. I really, really would.
Yeah, that would be nice.
And really, hopefully be able to talk about some of the things that do need to be put in place. I think he does have the power and the authority to make some changes.
He does.
In full transparency, though, I just hope that they continue to put women first, right?
Yes,
and that
100%.
we understand the brutality and the victimization that is occurring.
Absolutely.
And then that those who are helping stay funded, and we continue to make sure that we're not just arresting the traffickers, arresting the buyers, which I got great updates about that. But then we are providing we are providing. So that's the part where, like I said, I can dance a little bipartisan. I lean conservative, but I still think that we have to take care of the individuals who are being victimized and who are caught in the middle of all of this.
Yeah, you have to make it happen, and there's just certain things that you've got to navigate. And I wouldn't want to wear your hat for a second, because that's a tough hat to wear. You have to navigate through people's egos, their emotions, their power seats in those arenas. And I don't think that people really kind of understand that element about you. They're thinking, and I can't speak for a lot of people. I would just say usually common perception is, here's a woman who's been through some stuff. She's got, and I'm not mocking this in any way, but in their perception is they got this little outreach thing that they do, and we're yada yada yada. But what they don't understand is the people that are behind you, and I'm not going to name drop those people, but when I say powerful people, they have the ability to make actual change and are fighting for that change.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We are.
Yeah.
There's exciting news about some of the things that are changing.
Yeah.
And I think that we also have to change the context and how we're approaching it. I'm going to totally get on a little tangent here.
That's okay.
But it's like the Epstein stuff when we talk about the current administration and Epstein.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how many people took pictures? I took pictures in my trafficking with John Goodman, Michael Douglas, Liv Taylor, and Matt Damon, right? So at some point, I was in photo shoots with these people, just quick,
Right.
you know. I was at places.
I'm here in a moment.
I was
Yeah.
right. I did actually have my trafficker take me to a movie set on 2 different occasions where I did engage with, I don't know what they would have been, producers or
Yeah.
somebody. Not these actors, right?
Right.
Not these other people. But just because someone may take a picture or be somewhere does not mean, and that's the part where I'm saying we really are just like,
We got to educate ourselves.
sight. We got to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
You got to use common sense,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't mean that this is exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
Or even if people have a past,
Right.
And I'm not trying to be in total defense of that. I actually operate our PART program, which is our prostitution abatement rehabilitation program here in Fresno, through the courts. And I do that personally. I don't facilitate a lot of classes personally, but this is one that I'm very personally invested in.
So you don't farm that out to anybody else?
I don't farm that out
good.
to anybody else.
That's
I
good.
actually facilitate the class myself quarterly, and along with law enforcement, with other people. But
Good.
what's really important for me is because I think that people don't understand that domestically in the context of buyers, right, what's actually happening and how many misconceptions there are and how many people do truly believe this is a victimless crime, and they may be morally despicable,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to knock that, right?
Yeah.
But that you like.
But that's education, though.
The recidivism rates that we have seen dropped by combining, and so I'm really excited to tell you my next announcement. That's what I'm leading into. Whenever we really start to incorporate higher penalties for those engaged, right, as well as education, is a game changer. So I don't know. I just got the information. It actually was just texted to me. So I'm going to be sharing first time here on your podcast.
Yes, we appreciate
that. It was just texted to me.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press from
Breaking.
A major, really well-known California district attorney who has just recently went out of state. AB 379 just passed the full Senate floor, now onto the governor's desk. This was at 3:24 p.m. So AB 379 is absolutely, I'm just so excited about AB 379. It goes after the buyers.
Okay, good. That's what I was going to say, because a lot of people don't know what the AB is.
So, so it's Assembly Bill 379 goes after the buyers, and it's really important to understand that Prop 57, amongst with 2 years ago, we actually we took off loitering for the purpose of prostitution. We took this ability for law enforcement to be able to really engage and intervene with both those out there being prostituted and those trying to purchase sex for sale. And I mean, it has just allowed it to run rampant back in the streets again. We went from seeing a downtick to seeing this huge. You could drive down Parkway. You could drive down there like, oh my gosh, there's one, right? They're out there now in G-strings and stilettos just walking down the street uninhibited.
Yeah.
Right? And so shout out to Fresno County and to our Mayor Dyer, who made sure that our municipality code stayed in place. So our Fresno PD tends to stay on top of that. But that is not the case in Los Angeles, throughout so many other counties.
The big blue,
Right. And so what this does is reinstate loitering for not just for the purpose of prostitution, but for purchasing. Loitering for the purchase of prostitution.
Okay, good.
So now they can stop these guys who are out there circling the block, right?
Yeah.
Now they're being forced back into these PAR programs like at Breaking the Chains. And then guess what? There's increased penalties now, and even more significant penalties if you're caught a second time. If we can address demand.
Do you think they're severe?
I think they could be more severe. But I think that we're on the right track. I think when you look at SB 14 that Senator Shannon Grove introduced, and SB 1414, right? She's been such a powerhouse, such huge advocate. Now Assembly Bill 379 through a Democratic bipartisan. She's been really loyal to us, Maggie Krell, right? As these things,
she kind of leans in the middle sometimes.
She really does. She really is about. I have a lot of respect for Maggie Krell. She really does definitely want to protect our children and hold those who are exploiting them accountable.
Fantastic.
And so we're starting to see that increase. I mean, they're flying through. They're getting signed. And with all the other things we've seen dumbed down in California, this is a huge win for us.
Good. Praise God for that. Let me ask you this question. So there's this combative wall, and the combative wall is what we want to see happen in our legislature, in our state legislature, to really give some teeth to these bills that we're trying to pass. And so, as wonderful as that AB bill that's coming across, as soon as you said governor's got to sign it, that's when I cringe.
He will sign it.
He will sign it.
He will sign it. He signed SB 1414, and he actually, and again, this is in no defense, right? But
it's just facts.
Just facts. Like, I like to stick to the facts.
Sure.
he was instrumental in us getting SB 1414.
Really?
Yeah. Once his wife,
Interesting.
actually, I want to really
Shout
hats
out.
off to the first. And I guess we refer to her as the first partner.
I don't know. That's a new one.
That's so I'm gonna honor what she requested.
Yeah.
So the first partner, his wife, is actually has a huge heart for the anti-trafficking movement and for protecting children.
Wow.
And so all we do is whisper in her ear, Senator
Hey.
Shannon Grove, and whisper in her ear a little bit. I don't know what happens in their pillow talk, and he'll be saying one thing, and then they go to bed, and he's like, "Where do I start?"
Yeah. Here we go.
Right.
Hey Shannon, if you're listening, we really want you to come on the show sometime. We want the other side of this, so you're welcome to come on anytime. Yeah.
That's what I imagine is happening. But she has been we don't have any doubt that he's going to sign that. So
wow, praise God for that. That's awesome. It really is. And I don't want to say awesome to everything because no, it really is. People don't understand the weight of that, you know, we're finally getting traction. We're finally getting movement in these areas that we want to see women, children protected.
Yes.
And we weren't seeing that for such a long period of
not
time.
at all.
Much like the border policy, and I'm not trying to make it all political, it's just there's facts here that you have to state, is that you had these open border policies. It was the same way with sex and human trafficking, is the policies were weak.
Yes.
Or non-existent for that matter.
Non-existent for the most part. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so it's so nice to see that we have that teeth is kind of being reinserted back in these bills.
You see the cycle change whenever we begin to really enforce and bring forth consequences. I mean, we know.
Go figure.
It's
Go
right.
figure.
It's a fact, right? The war on drugs actually ushered in this anti-trafficking issue that we have because gangs,
it wasn't as profitable.
No. Criminal organizations, criminal individuals, gangs, you name it, they operate off of profit and loss, risk and benefit, right? You can sell a bag of drugs one time, you sell a person over and over again. You sell a bag of drugs one time at a really high risk, you can sell a person over and over again at minimal to no risk. There's no consequences.
Almost the same amount of profit. Yeah.
More profit.
More profit.
More
profit.
Oh,
wow.
yeah. Oh, hands down more
Wow.
profit. If I sell you a bag of drugs, it's over, right?
Yeah.
But I can bring little Cindy back to you
15 times.
Man,
Yeah.
more
Whatever.
than that.
Yeah. But
exactly. It's
just the
ongoing.
example, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
people don't understand that, because that was really a big eye opener for me. It was a shocker, because growing up in the 80s, you always had the big, drug campaigns, and we're attacking that. You saw the presidents go on screen and say, hey, we've got these victories taking place. But the root cause, and I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about this, and I said the problem is that the root cause is not being addressed, and it's here. It's not in Colombia. It's not in Malaysia. It's not in Taiwan. It's not only these different foreign countries or the Philippines. It's here. The problem is that the men have to remove the call for it. They have to remove the need for it. Then you don't have the demand for it.
American men are the
100%.
number one consumer of people in the entire world. I think people need to hear that again.
They do.
American men are the number one consumer, the number one driving factor for human trafficking in every country that it exists.
That's horrible.
We have businessmen flying to Thailand,
I've heard of that.
going, into Sweden, into all these other places, into the red light district, investing. Tons of money.
Yeah.
So, we haven't even scratched the surface on that. So,
No.
definitely. We need some international laws, obviously some federal.
Interpol stuff.
Man, that needs to happen because, obviously people probably look at it like other countries need to develop their own systems to protect their children and their people. But it's happening. And again, the number one consumer of people is American men.
So understanding that, when I think about all the different entities around the world, we're doing our part. And, and this is a comparison and argument, is that a lot of people will say that, global warming, we're the most restrictive in the world as far as like how we do our atmosphere, how we do climate change and all these different policies, right? But when you break down the numbers and you show the impact globally, it doesn't even scratch the surface. Because all the other countries are not held. If you're not held to that same standard, it doesn't do any difference.
Yeah.
So in regards or respects to sex and human trafficking, until you get those other countries really on board with that, you've only addressed one part of the problem.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So how do we at that federal level, if you can even speak to that, How do we get that in their lens, in their scope, if you will?
So, in a perfect world, what I would love to see on a federal level, and again, and in beyond, is that we really begin to start better tracking the purpose. Okay, we do a lot. And again,
What do you mean by purpose of that? Like the need or
the purpose of people in traveling,
Okay.
right? And really starting, but the
I
problem
see
is
what
even
you're
with
saying.
that,
Yeah.
right? Is we have people leaving here to travel to other countries, and you hit the nail on the head. If the other countries are not engaged or they are okay with this, like they are in Thailand and China, where this is not seen as an issue by any stretch of the imagination. This is a woman's purpose in life or a young girl's purpose in life. You're not going to get
it's a part of their tourism.
It's part of it. That's right.
Yeah.
It's encouraged.
Which is disgusting.
Yeah, it's very disgusting.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the church has a lot of work in their hands. I had just mentioned to a local church leader, we'd love to see some. That's why you heard me say to that local church leader that popped in, hey, when are we going to do some red light district missions, right? That's important, right? We need to get the word out. We need to start. And so my hat's off to, and I fully support a lot of these global anti-trafficking organizations that are really trying to make an impact and really spread awareness in some of these other places.
I'll share this quick story, but and then I want you to get into some of the things that are taking place that you were going to lead into as far as like what the bills are that have happened. One of the things when I was basically preparing myself for ministry was we had to go into the Tenderloin district in San Francisco. And this is mid-90s, early mid-90s, somewhere around there. And there was about 15 to 20 kids that were Silicon Valley kids, and they were well-to-do families, had never been exposed or never even seen anything like remotely to this level, right? There was open-ended drug deals. There was open-ended drug abuse. There was open-ended sex. It was completely exposed. And people have no idea until they really see it, and it's something that's tangible. And that's a large part of why I wanted to bring you back, was because you have to bring that tangible part so people, it's a taste, see, smell kind of thing. It's not just something I hear in an article. It's not something I hear on a YouTube or a TikTok or something like that even makes TikTok. Probably not, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say.
Right.
It's not just about, when people say awareness, honestly, Deborah, it offends me. Like, awareness is so abused as a commonality of a word, an expression. Oh, we need to make everybody's making somebody aware about something, right? You're talking about human lives being changed forevermore, being grown up in that, groomed into that. Right. And I don't think people really understand
grooming
that.
other people and then continuing these generational cycles. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and you can speak to that.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll jump right into.
Go for it.
I had brought these notes with me.
Thank you.
Is talking about like outside of border control, right?
Yeah.
Washington. Some of the things we would like to see Washington doing, and some of the things we believe is happening on the back end. And again, just open disclaimer, like I'm not here to argue about like what got cut, what didn't get cut. But I think it is really important to understand that reinstating strong penalties for online platforms, we believe is coming back to the table. We know these are open conversations that are beginning to happen there through the current administration. We're very happy about that. There was a lot of talk, but not a lot of movement previously. And so we're really hoping that, people will understand that really backing those initiatives, because that's going to be, key. One of the number one platform that we're seeing children groomed and
gaming
is just online platforms.
Yeah, period.
And again, it's not even that the trafficking is occurring there, but that's where they're being grooming and lured out from.
Yeah.
And again, trafficking is a door that very few are able to exit from once they walk through. Redirecting foreign aid, right? Redirecting foreign aid towards governments that are actually combating human trafficking. I would
supporting
love,
them. Yeah.
like, somebody please send this to Trump. This is one of the conversations I would tell him, like, with the tariffs and the things that we're talking about with fentanyl, we need to really, what are our penalties whenever you are allowing people to come in and
traffic
our children, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? So really seeing that reinforced, and even again, like I said, redirecting federal aid, making sure there's a lot of organizations out there that receive massive amounts of federal funding that are just checking boxes. that are not really providing direct
accountability.
services. Yeah,
100%.
accountability. So we're really
Yes.
excited about that. We want to see that happening. And so we're really hoping that we're going to see some really strong restructuring in the anti-trafficking movement personally, to where we say, okay, is this really making an impact? And if not, let's not take the funding away. Let's redirect it to agencies
Absolutely.
and organizations that are making an impact, that are, maybe more boots on the ground, are truly providing effective prevention education tools, right? And then finally, just making sure that, especially like in states like California that, have kind of undermined the current administration and what is happening, that we are helping to continue to throw those lifelines out there, because there's still children here, and they are this administration's children that are here and don't have the decision capabilities, right? They don't have the ability to vote, but they're being exploited. And
That's
so really
amazing.
hoping that he will hear that. I mean, that's one of the things for me that is really, really big is, California being the #1 trafficking hotspot in America. Like, don't get me started about how we think our policies are so great, and you see the degradation that is happening. We have
People don't believe it.
Yeah, we have the highest crime rates, highest level of human trafficking, sexual violence, domestic violence. It's just like rampant, because most criminals know you can come to California and get slapped on the hand.
Exactly.
And released in
sanctuary.
24 right, and get released in 24 hours. So why would this not be the place that you want to commit your crimes?
I would like to see that repeal of the sanctuary states completely gone away with, because that will really put the vice grips on these criminals and these people that do buy, these people that do purchase human beings. That would be so nice, because it removes that ability to walk around freely and abuse and exploit people. Right.
Absolutely.
They don't get it. People just don't get it. And when I tell people that this is literally the hub of the world, they look at me like I'm nuts.
Yeah.
Like, really, they do. And I'm like, where do you get your facts from that we're not? Well, because other countries don't actually track data. I don't know that they, I understand they don't track data like we do, but we also track that data from where these people are coming from. So again, what you were talking about earlier is, if we're giving foreign aid, we need to pull back those apron strings to those people and stop funding that. Say, hey, listen, if you're not going to play ball, right? Then, we're going to cut this off for you. You're not going to get the food that you want. You're not going to get the whatever money we send for foreign aid. I think those are all valid points, but one of the things that I want to ask you too is, and this is the dream. This is the big one. If money were like no object, right, and you could really we could pile drive some legislation, we could put some bills down. In a perfect world, I know this is a big question, but what would you do if that were the case in the spectrum of shutting down?
Oh, this is going to be democratically very unpopular. I can tell you right now, because I dream about it, actually. If I had my way, the very first thing is I would restructure our correctional institutions.
Okay.
I believe, just as I would put my grandson or my child in timeout, that there is a time, again, from early childhood till you're an adult, that there are consequences to your actions. Incarceration
100%.
changed my life.
Right.
And so I would restructure that in a couple ways, and I'll make it very short, is that unlimited funding, because this is the problem, is we already want to defund all of our correctional institutions, so there's no way they want to put more money into them.
No.
Is that there should be mandatory programming for every inmate that walks through that front door. You should not be able to play pinochle all day or sleep till 10 o'clock.
No.
There should be a 6 a.m. boot camp wake-up call. You are getting up. You are going to life skills classes. You're going to be in counseling. You're going to hear victim impact statements.
Yeah.
You're going to begin to understand like it or not. And that good time, work time really is absolutely insane right now, because all you got to do is not stab somebody to earn your good time, work time, right?
Jeez.
And so
You got to be basically breathing.
Right.
Yeah.
If you are not engaging in these activities, if you're doing the refuse to come out, then that's great. Then your sentence pauses. Right there, right?
That's good.
If you want to move forward day by day, and you want to, and whatever consequence that is, but I do think that our incarceration, first and foremost, we have to have consequences.
Okay.
People have to understand we need to stop treating them like they're 5-year-olds and like their frontal lobes are not engaged, right? Especially our adults.
Right.
We need to say, okay, your frontal lobes are engaged.
You knew what you were doing.
You did this and thought, well, whatever. But then also, Okay. And that's the part where I think but you can't just lock them away and throw away the key.
No.
You have to actually provide those services. So I think that first and foremost would be the first place I would put all my money into. And then I would begin to bring back the teeth in our laws, right? I would really begin to strengthen these laws. I think people should. I think that if you are a buyer and you are, cited for this and you have to come through, let's say, the Breaking the Chains PAR program, and you have 12 hours, you now completely and fully understand what you're engaging in, the victimization that is occurring, human trafficking, how you're furthering criminal activity in our communities by funding gangs and other criminal entities.
Right.
If you do this again, you're saying, I don't care, I just want to get off. You're a sex offender. You're no better than the guy who's touching the 10-year-old down the street or doing whatever inappropriate things that are happening. So I think there should be a sex offender registry. I think that needs to happen.
So more like a sex buyer in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
I
Never even thought of that.
I think that you become a predator. At that point, when you say...
There's no different?
Yeah, no different.
Yeah.
If you're saying the victimization, the level, and I have full understanding, I basically just got certified in this course. Right? Because you get a certification when you leave.
Oh, you do?
To take back to the judge.
Gotcha.
Right? So I'm certified in totally understanding what this is. There needs to be some accountability. And then, of course, and yes, it's going to be because of my organization and what I do.
Yeah.
But I would make sure that there is access to the supportive services, the therapeutic processes, the housing that these victims need. Because what everybody needs to understand is no matter what age the person is whenever they are identified to be engaged in the sex trade, period. I don't care if there's a third-party person involved and they're no longer being trafficked. The fact of the matter is the vast majority of individuals within the sex trade specifically enter between 12 and 16 years old and at the hands of a third-party entity. So people cannot comprehend that level of trauma. It is best... And this is not from me. These are for some of our nation's top trauma professionals. Yeah. What's called CCPTSD, and I think we talked about this the last time, but I'll say it again. Complex compound PTSD is most often seen in frontline combat amongst one particular group. That's our Vietnam veterans, right? These are the same people who went out and seen the most horrific things, experienced these extreme levels of trauma, and then what happened when they came back? They were met with shame.
Oh,
they
100%.
were met with, and that is so similar to what we're seeing. And so being able to provide those critical care services that these individuals need and the support that they need is hands down essential to them being able to reclaim their lives, reclaim their identity, and really understand that there is something better for them in life.
I think that, adding that Jesus factor in there as well, because
absolutely.
I mean, that goes without saying, but having that as a part of their program, it doesn't matter. We all know that that's an individual choice if you want to allow God in or not, right? But to be in front of that, I would make it mandatory. You have to sit in front of messages. You have to sit in front of people who are pouring into you. Rather you reject it or accept it, that's totally up to you, right? But at least have that opportunity, because if you turned around 3 or 4 of those people and their mindsets and how they really process the value of human life, it would be worth it all,
right?
In my opinion,
absolutely.
Right?
No, I can totally see that. I totally see that. We're on a recon mission, and we need to rescue people, because I have said as a pastor's wife, and I know my husband says this, and it's true. Yeah. If you're rescuing them and you're not rescuing them to the cross, what have you really rescued them from?
Correct.
Right. You've only delayed the inevitable.
Yeah.
But I appreciate being able to be here with you today.
No, me too. It has been wonderful. I always learn every time you come over. I'm just like, this is phenomenal. This is awesome, because now I can go with more facts, more information, and when I say making people aware, really instilling useful knowledge to people so that they can be aware around their families, around their environments, their communities, and no longer be those people that are just uneducated.
Right.
Right. So thank you again. I appreciate you so much.
Anytime.
Thanks for coming over. You guys, you know what you need to do. Whatever platforms that you stream on, you can download this podcast. We also, and I've been mentioning this pretty frequent, and we're going to get to a hit point for you to promote. Is we want to make sure that you guys get the downloads, and with Prime, you can go on Amazon Music and can find our podcast there, and anywhere where you stream again. And if you could, Deborah, real quick, tell people a point of contact that they can come and get involved. whatever level that is with you? What's the best form to do that?
So first and foremost, just remember we are breaking the chains. So you're going to go to the acronym btcfresno.org. You can find out more about our organization. You can donate there. You can get our phone number. You can reach out to us directly, 559-492-1566. And I think it's really important for people to understand with everything we were talking about with funding and wanting redirection is that Breaking the Chains is primarily privately funded. And so I do always have to say that it is your money that drives our mission and allows us to reach out to the least, the last, the lost, and the lonely. And so if there's anything you can do, $5 a month is a game changer for us. We are really looking to strengthen our reoccurring donors. And I think there's nobody more valuable to us than that faithful person that writes a $25 check or just signs up for we can all do it, reoccurring $25 gift, because that is the stability that keeps Breaking the Chains moving.
Do you have any events that are coming up for Breaking the Chains? Anything soon?
No, we are supporting a lot of other local events. We have our Fresno State games, so come out to all of our home games. If you were out there, go Bulldogs. Yes. Breaking the Chains partners with Fresno State, so we are on the far north end cap. You can't miss us. We're right at the end with the big concession stand. Come get all your hot dogs and sodas and drinks from us there this year. And then keep a lookout. If you go on our website, we have our Save the Date. We had Elizabeth Smart with us this last year, so our big annual event. Yeah. I will be announcing so just keep that, and you can throw that up out there at some point or maybe on our next one, our next big speaker. And so we're really excited about that. So keep your eyes out for the Promise Luncheon. That's awesome. Thank you again so much, guys. Thanks for tuning in and just making this a part of your routine, whatever that is. Amen podcast. And as I always say, make yourself a hard target to kill, because the enemy is always out there looking at every aspect of your life, your family, your business, everything in your purpose to take you out. We'll see you next time. Hey, Alpha Men, if you're enjoying the show, check your comms and look us up at amenpodcast.cc, where you can find all of your favorite shows and new releases. Stay Alpha.